Namaste. Welcome to Sipping on Stories podcast. Now, this is where we welcome women healers and spiritual leaders from all around the world to come and share their journeys and their experiences. And of course, we do them over warm cups and deep thoughts. Now, many of you have been loving our podcast episodes. Thank you so much for showing your love. And for those who are new to this channel, welcome. Please like and subscribe so we can continue to share this love. Thank you. Namaste everyone. Welcome back to another soul nourishing episode of Sipping on Stories. So if you've been on this journey with us, you might remember my previous conversations with Mansha. She's a gifted counselor, a past life regression therapist, Akashic Records Reader, and a shadow mastery coach. She has been tapping into her intuitive and psychic abilities since the age of 15, learning and mastering various healing modalities to help people navigate through their life challenges. So today, we will be diving deeper into soul work, exploring the difference between past life regression and Akashic record reading, and what role the soul families and karmic contracts play in our lives, and also the fifth plane of existence, where our subconscious intuition and even mind reading resides. Plus, we'll discuss how to release karmic contracts for deeper healing and freedom. So this is going to be a powerful conversation with Mansha. So whether you are just starting to explore these concepts or you have been on a spiritual path for a while, I invite you to open your mind and heart as we welcome back Mansha to the podcast. Mansha, namaste. Welcome back to Sipping on Stories.
Namaste, hello, Celine, hello, all the viewers. Thank you so much for calling back.
Yeah, awesome, Mansha. First of all, for our listeners maybe who are new to the channel, if you could tell us where you're joining us from today, and we'll get straight into the topics.
Okay, so I'm joining you from Hyderabad, India, and almost all of my info you've given pretty beautifully. So thank you.
Yeah, I did a good job there, didn't I? Hope so.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Also, Mansha, I know that we last time when we did our episode, we kind of, touched on various topics, but we talked a bit more deeper on past life regression. So I know that you have been doing a lot more work. So what are the differences and similarities between past life regression and Akashic record reading?
Serene in past life regression, the people who generally sign up for that are more logical minded.
Hmm.
They are very practical and you can say scientific minded people. They don't trust or they kind of doubt the readings because it's coming from somebody else. They don't believe much in divinity or higher power. They would like to experience the journey themselves. It's also for those people basically who would like to go in and see where and what is being shown to us. It's for the inquisitive minded as well. In past life regression, we take the client through regression, regressing of their past lives, in this life or the past lives, to see where the issue is coming from.
Hmm.
But the same thing, it's like two sides of the same coin. Akashic is where the reader who has been, you can say attuned, enabled to visit the same plane of the fifth plane of existence, as I told you. They they can access the records of the client to see where the issues are coming from, which life or why the reasons. It's like two sides of the same coin. For regression, the client goes to the regression. In Akashic Records reading, the reader goes to this plane and fetches the answers for the client.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Like Akashic record reading are essentially like, like soul libraries. Like you have all the information available about your soul and you just need to tap into it. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a huge library. It's a digital imprint, actually.
Hmm.
It's a lot of energy imprint. It's a huge library. Many people see it as they're walking through a big, huge mire of their hallways of books. Some people see it as a library. Some people actually, again, who are more, computer and scientific and digital lovers, they see it as digital prints. Some people go and see it as they have access to a huge master computer and they're downloading their lives and codes. Basically, essentially, it's a library. It's not a physical library because it's in an energetic plane. It has records of all our actions, all our in Hinduism or in Vedic, as they say, karmas. So
Hmm.
any event, anything which you've thought, done, all the deeds basically. coming from the very first life of existence on the earth.
Hmm.
They are multidimensional. So you can also access your lives in other dimensions. That
Hmm.
again you can do via past life as well as fresh.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's so interesting. So, how do the soul family groups and contracts kind of play a role? Like, how are they kind of interlinked? So, what kind of information? So, I understand that with past life regression with your Akashic records. So, you kind of describe the differences and the similarities, but we also touched upon the fact that there are soul families, there are groups, and there are contracts. So, how does that kind of fit into this?
The soul families and contracts are where you are worked repeatedly to clear your habits. So you can see there are some kind of patterns which are repeating several, let's say, generations. That is a generational and ancestral karma.
Hmm.
So say, for example, somebody's father was not able to leave the family and go and settle somewhere else. That is again repeating with the son and again repeating with the daughter, something like that.
Hmm.
Here in social contracts, it could be anything. Like, of course, then the four main uh, HRMC, how we say about health, relationships, career, money, is the main root of, like, it's like, simplified for people. So where issues you're facing, again, it's something like any disease such as, example, cancer, it runs through the family. So this comes under the generational, but soul contracts are for family. It could be also friends, certain colleagues, but mostly it is your family, your immediate family, by relations or by blood. Those families keep taking birth together. So in one lifetime, you can be the father. In our next lifetime, you are the son. Then you are the mother. Then you might be somebody else, an uncle. So they have to keep fulfilling and clearing their karmic contracts while being together.
Hmm. Right.
That's
And
so good.
what role does your pets play? So do they come in as one of your, like like a soulmate or a soul contract? So they have a soul contract with you. Is that how you maybe you have a pet that it's attached to one person in the family than the other? Is that how that
It
works
is a
too?
lovely question, Sally, because pets, you dived into that. Yeah, pets also have contracts with us. They have served you in one life, in one form, in one animal form or the other, and then they would like to come back to the same, as they're called parents, same parents or the same siblings. So it is for them, they move upwards
Mm.
as a soul, or they progress. So from animal forms, so it starts with, you can see the rock. Like the earliest, if you see the life of somebody, it starts as a rock where there was nothing on earth.
Mm.
Then that rock has evolved into the trees, water, then the animal form. Eventually, then human animation comes. So the pets also serve to, give us so much of love and comfort, and they take so much of love from us as well. And in each life, I mean, it also comes as same gap or frequency of few lives apart.
Mm.
They work on that dimension on their form, or they must be somewhere else. But they even eventually they rejoin with you in a gap of few years each.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh God. Yeah. And how do like these karmic contracts play? So what role do they play in our lives? Like I understand, people are talking about like, karmic relationship these days. You kind of hear that buzz going on Instagram, you open up YouTube, the karmic relationship. So what is like, karmic relationship versus having, a soulmate? So how does that differ?
It's taken up quite a storm, right? All across the karmic relationship, the phrases. So karmic relationship are again the relationships we are difficult to break out of. It's not so easy. So even if you separate or take a divorce or you leave the house, you see the same pattern repeating.
Mm.
If you have not basically cleared or come to an understanding with the initial person who had started it in this life for you, if you run away from it, you will attract the same kind of patterns again and again. Till
Mm.
you've resolved it somewhere
Mm.
within yourself. It's mostly an inner work. This doesn't entail you have to go to the person and ask for an apology, then go to forgiveness with. That's not how it works. Basically, it's a lot of inner work. So
Right.
these are the patterns which people find difficult to break from. It could be between spouses. It could be a boss and a colleague as well. It
Hmm.
can be mother-daughter, father-son, many, many kinds of relationships. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. So there are
Hmm.
so many shades to this karmic contracts.
Hmm. So,
Basically, the contract is when these two souls have allowed each other, or rather requested, I should put it that way, that you come to me in this life in so and so form,
yeah.
so that you teach me these lessons, I learn from it, I grow
Hmm.
spiritually upward. So if we feel that we are getting a lot, you know, tortured or criticized in this life. Whereas if you go through this journey, you will realize you had requested them instead. So soul families also are like that. They are on a request and approval basis. They have approved and agreed to work with you in this life. Families are heavier contracts because there it is more one to one, one to
Hmm.
one, one to one in that aspect.
Yeah. So with karmic relationships, it doesn't always have to be a spouse relationship, right? So it can come in any relationship in your life. Yeah. So what
Mm.
happens, let's say there are two people have come together in a karmic relationship, and one person, they kind of, start the inner work and they are progressing and they're learning what they need to, but the other person isn't. So what happens then? So I always wonder
Well,
about this.
yesterday, I had a client who asked me that and was resistant to the forgiveness and letting go. So, and she asked me the very same question: Aren't we already living this life karmically, and I'm suffering from this person? So why do I have to do any work? So I told her exact same thing. Just continue to live this life, or if you even leave that example, toxic partner, your life anyways is karmic, so that is how you've chosen and come to this life. It progresses slow. So again, what happens is consciously we are having the mindset of a lot of complaint, resentment, hurt, irritation, and anger. So that doesn't go because you're not understanding or learning from the experience. You rather, I'm undergoing this. This person is like that with me. He doesn't understand me. He doesn't behave. I'm not getting what I deserve.
Yeah.
In Akashic or past life, whatever modality you start doing the inner work through, there's several others. You consciously take the responsibility. It's
Hmm.
also taught in psychology, right? You cannot change the other person. You have to change yourself. Your energy shifts, automatically your surrounding shifts. The
Hmm.
other person will become little more, little caring, maybe understanding. You will not reach the 100% that you're expecting. Again, because you have chosen that way.
Hmm.
So that person will temper down somewhere, giving you enough space for you to let go of those negative attachments and to realize and understand why this is happening and how can I shift out of this.
Hmm.
See, for in many cases of you can say abuse or trauma or toxicity, people don't stand up for themselves. There are many people who can't walk away from it.
Yeah.
So the initial thing itself would be first to understand in itself and you stop getting attached to the toxic cycles, automatically your energy is changed then. The other person will think twice before understanding or
Hmm.
misbehaving.
Hmm.
There the first shift occurs. Then as and again I'm telling you, it doesn't happen, that person will start loving you overnight or will start really valuing you. But there is a lot of detachment where both the parties learn. This party learns that I should not be troubling this one as much. And this person learns to let go and live life. Okay, this is okay by me as long as I'm not troubling this particular order.
Hmm. Yeah. It's such a, it makes sense, and it's such a heavy topic, I think, for our listeners and viewers, because if you guys have seen a previous episode, I guess that gives us a little basics on what we're talking today. So we're building on that. So I do recommend our listeners and viewers to go watch that episode. I will link it down for you guys. But I think this is such a heavy topic and it makes sense to me. And again, you recommended several books as well, Mansha, the last time we spoke.
Yes,
So I
yeah.
think, yeah, I think that was like kind of entry into understanding past life regression. And understanding, these kind of topics that we are covering in much more detail. So I would definitely recommend our listeners to go and, read those books. I'll link it as well. But from here, Mansha, so you also talked about the fifth plane of existence where our subconscious resides. So I would love to understand, what does this mean?
See, we are living in a dimensional, multi-dimensional world, if you say, not world, universe rather, right? So we have so many people who've written about it. Earth is a 3D dimension where you can feel the objects, right? You can see, hear, sense, taste them. So these are the six senses operating on the third dimension
Mm,
world. So where you can see length, height, and breadth. So any object would have three dimensions. Fourth is very much a blanker plane. You have very few souls residing there. Actually, it's a transition phase, you can say.
mm,
Fifth is where there's a lot of mental energy work. Your subconscious mind resides there, basically. So when you fetch these details, or even in a past life regression with the client goes, is accessing that plane. Even in meditation, we do it because we are, trying to quieten our mind and just be in a low zone. Eventually, as you rise higher, you are accessing the fifth plane of it. Here is where this energetic imprint, the library is there. All the people of all the lifetimes of all the multiverses, plane of existence is where our mind resides, mostly the subconscious.
mm. No. And so, what kind of experiences would you say people start having when they start accessing this dimension? So, that can be achieved through meditation, you mentioned. And of course, that requires soul work. And there's, I think, one point I want to say is that, there is this, we believe in the soul work. The soul work doesn't start from zero. So if you're going to take a rebirth, it's going to start from where you left it. Maybe you left it at 50, so you're going to start your soul work there. So we see that some souls who come into Earth's plane are much more advanced or much more spiritual than the others, and that's the reason why, because they have put in lifetimes of work to where they
Yes.
are at this point, right? So because some people overnight they have these powers, they don't know how, but that's how. And I think I think about this a lot, so I'm sure you would agree. So what kind of experiences would you say people have when they do start accessing the fifth plane, or the subconscious?
Many people access their spirit guides, they access their guardian angels, they access their loved ones, they get messages from their ancestors. The dream plane is also this plane, because when you're sleeping, your subconscious mind is traveling, astral traveling basically. So not the
Yeah.
physical form, I'm not talking about the physical astral travel as such, but our mind still accesses these planes. It can go higher, as you said, if you're an evolved soul. It can also go to the sixth plane where the actual masters reside. Seventh, understanding that's a divine place when the divine energy is residing. There is also, of this breaker, we also have a 11 plane structure and also for 21 plane structure. We basically started with seven planes, seven chakras, 7 days of the way, this whole
Mm,
seven colors of the rainbow, things like that. So here is where you can get a lot of answers from the help, as I said, you from the guides, your angels, your masters, higher dimensional beings. So, see, a person has lived almost all of its karma and it's at a fag end, one or two lives are left remaining. They can take a break. They come to this plane. They are actually, you can say, promoted and elevated. They serve as masters for some time. They can, help other people across the planets, different planets on Earth as well, by giving messages and guidances to people. Eventually, when they've, also done that job, they can choose to come back to Earth, complete the remaining lives.
mm. That's so interesting. Yeah. And I think this is where your intuition heightens, and
Yes.
people go mind reading, and there's so many other kind of psychic abilities people start having,
Yes.
and accessing things and seeing things that a normal person who hasn't accessed that level yet cannot
Yeah.
see. So yeah, all right, that's so interesting. So I think, so with we talked about karmic contracts, Mansha. So we talked about it's sometimes people don't realize this, right? So they're taking births after births and kind of um, you know going around the same circle for many many lives. So when people, like, how do you actually release these karmic contracts? So what can people, how can people even recognize that this is a karmic cycle that they're in? So how can they release themselves from it? What kind of work they need to put in?
Right. So patterns, as I told you, these are all patterns which are repeating in your life. Say you feel the same, behaviors or traits or the uh, actions, reactions which are met out to you in your house. A similar one you can see replicating in your office where you work. Yet another one with a circle of friends. So that pattern is not going somewhere, right? The soul is not learning their lesson.
Hmm.
All you say about humility, certain times it's like you just need to be humble. You like to let the other person have control. Or in retrospect, you need to stand up for yourself and take control, at least for yourself. So it could play in any which ways. So the
Hmm.
patterns which are repeating are definitely, karmic imprints which you have to release yourself from.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And how do, so how can people, access or get help or even start doing something like today, even if, they're not able to get some help like straight away from, maybe like you, Mansha, like you're existing out there to help people out, of course, but what can people start doing today to kind of, become really wise or even, up the game with understanding what this is, or how to even release these karmic contracts? So what can they start doing today?
First step comes with realizing. They realize something is amiss. Why am I undergoing this? It always starts with that curiosity and inquisition. Then, I think any kind of healing modality, even if it is mindfulness, as simple as meditation, it could be Reiki or any such modality, they start healing themselves on cellular level.
Mm,
Where they really need to find answers if the soul is craving for that, then we need to then tap into these things that we're talking about, your past life regression, the Akashic.
yeah.
In past life regression, there's another hiccup is a person doesn't regress as fast. They don't see many things. They can't hear messages for themselves because it's a new terrain for them. Unless they're an intuitive high person, they cannot access. And what happens is for them, it's a new arena. They start doubting. They see something. Was it me? Was it my lifetime? So it's always questioning. The logical mind peaks in there.
Yeah.
Person who comes in with all faith will regress very easily and smoothly, as well as will also accept the Akashic reading for themselves. They understand because even in the reading we don't know about the person. Anyways, we just ask them, frame them a few questions, and once we access, and they get amazed. Okay, this person did not know such details about me. How can he or she tell me about those things? It shows across the lifetimes how the patterns have been repeating for them. Same as in a regression, they can see what they are doing or facing in this life as a past connection
Hmm.
where they need to release or break through or work at it from several different measures.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. That's really interesting, isn't it? And so, in this kind of journey, when people are getting into understanding, a little bit more deeper, Mansha, around the topics that we have covered today. So, are there any books that you can recommend, or any kind of resources you can recommend that people can go and start, reading and researching, on these topics that we have discussed?
Actually, there are not many, I would say, books. There are many people who are coming in on YouTube, many doctors,
Hmm.
healers. They know they've started writing recently, saying, but I haven't come across any such book which can cover so much because once we start doing this work, we come across so much. It's not written in one book because past life again was accessed and it was stepped upon by the Brian Weiss and Senator Newton. They had written books on them. So it was
Hmm.
easy for people to correlate that this is what happened because he shares the entire lifetime of a few clients. In
Yeah.
Akashic, I think if you Google it, you might find certain things. But this one more thing I would like to add is in same Christianity, they say the book of life. In our Vedic culture, they say the book of karma, the one which Chitragupta writes, whatever
Yeah.
action you're doing, even if you think a negative thought It equally goes for all our good days or for positive intentions. All is recorded. It's like a balance sheet or a ledger. So what comes in and what goes and how you balance in each life. So there are references to the book of life, the book of karma. I think there are a few other synonymous names in
Yeah.
cultures as well. But these two are on the top of my mind.
Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. I think, Mansha, that's all the time we have today for this episode. But it's always, great chatting to you. We always learn something new and time just flies by. So I just hope that, this short and powerful episode is something our listeners we've been waiting for, and they take, lots and lots of information through this. And I hope that, it helps someone out there who's listening to this episode. And I will definitely link all the resources and our previous episode into the description so our listeners in the US can go and refer to them. But before we say bye, Mansha, for today's episode, if you have any message for our listeners, go for it.
I would really suggest that, people who really want to come out of the mire of, delusions or the same toxic patterns or the same feeling of being held and not being able to do what they feel like, wherever they feel restricted and constrained, they need to, take help of any such modality and tool so that they are able to live a better life in this life.
Awesome.
That's what
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mansha, for coming on Sipping on Stories podcast. It's always so lovely chatting with you. It feels like, I'm talking to a friend. So thank you so much.
The same thing. Thanks so much. See you again. Bye.